Take back the rights we've all been taught to honor. Take a knee. Sometimes in this crazy world, you have to stoop to conquer. Take a knee for the First Amendment. Take a knee as a proud descendant. Take a knee for America and what it all stands for. Take a knee for America and what we all stand for.
All righty then. And let the games begin.
Woo-hoo.
Do you really care about us? Today, people, I want to start this off with one. Miss Bailey gave me this. Where'd you give it to me at?
Top Contributor Award
At your party?
from the first annual podcast party for Mind Over Melanin.
Yes, I was there. She had me come to her fair, and she made me work. She made me work. She had me taking the money and everything, and I had to just watch everybody.
You earned the trophy.
Dance and have fun while I was in the corner working.
You earned the trophy.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it's a good thing. And that's one thing. And then we have Inez Dinkins gave me a certificate, but she spelled my name wrong. Most women get my name wrong. I can't understand. I don't know. There's something about this. They like that Litkett thing. It's not Litkett, it's Litkett. But they forget that T all the time.
But only women make the mistake.
Yeah, only women do that. What's going on here? What is on their minds when they're thinking of my name? I don't understand it. But anyway, we want to start this day off. I want you to know, Miss Jeremie, that I like listening to your podcast because listening to your podcast, you want to tell the people about your podcast, where they can find you?
Sure. The podcast is called Mind Over Melanin, and I'm the host, Bailey Jeremie. And you can find the podcast at my website, mindovermelanin.com, and all major podcast platforms.
My podcast is called You Know What to Do in a Piece with Netta. And basically, I tell about my life experience through my spiritual awakening. And I make people aware of their spiritual aspect of their lives, like the divine within and how you own your power, and instead of just tapping into that human side and being human every day, we have our divine side that we need to align with and go within. I help people, I'm an intuitive healer and intuitive life coach as well. So I help people find the essence of the life that they want to create. So instead of living that narrative of the life that you live, you get to rewrite your own story.
That's so powerful.
So,
yes,
yeah.
you can be the author of your own destiny.
Exactly.
I like that.
Well, the reason why that I wanted your ladies here today is because I like the topic, and because what we're going to talk
There's
about.
a gentleman in the building.
Excuse me?
There's a gentleman in the building.
Well, I'm building up to you.
All right.
We ain't ready for you yet.
All right, thank you. I'll take that.
After these two beautiful ladies, we can't just go right to you. We got to ease you in there.
There you go.
Save the best for last.
There you go. All right, so the reason why, because me and Judah, we have a situation, and he wanted to talk about this, and I don't mind talking about it because I see it's something that happens, especially to our people, and I think both your ladies, I like to show, I think a lot of mental health work, people, they give them the big words and so, but they don't teach them practical application thereof. You know what I'm saying? Show them how to incorporate that, how to use this to, make yourself better, get better and stuff like that. Okay. So that's what I want to start doing. That's what I want us to start doing and working on when we start getting the clients and stuff like that, teaching them how to use this knowledge and everything like that.
Practical application of the tools.
See, look at that. You did that to him, didn't you? just sitting in a room with
Telekinesis, huh?
Damn!
It was a connection. It was a connection.
Right.
I tell you,
That
I
lock
tell you,
connection.
she's- All right. So Judah, so you want to start it off and tell them what is your issue?
Well, I have a gripe with the MTA. It's based on their misusage. I believe it's a misusage of the multi-doors that they have for the entry ports of the buses. I was cited for getting on the back of a bus back in, I believe it was in August. And
This summer?
yeah, that was August of this year. I was out in the field visiting clients from point A to point B. And when I got to the doors were open on the outside, on the outer doors. And the front door, they had a wheelchair coming on, and they weren't letting people on. Okay.
Yeah.
I get on the back of the bus. When I get on the back of the bus, a gentleman waves me off. I get off the bus. He gives me a ticket. Before giving me the ticket, he asked for ID. I gave him ID, and I gave him my unlimited Metro card. I said I have an unlimited Metro card. I was going to pay at the front of the bus when I got on, but I didn't get the chance because he waved me off. So he writes me a ticket. He says, well, you can tell that story to the hearing officer.
Wow.
He says, hold on to the Metro card because the Metro card is like a credit card, and you can check if the Metro card is valid. Okay, I held on to the Metro card. I went to the hearing. I explained the situation to the hearing officer. I gave her the Metro card, and after the hearing, she checked the Metro card. She came back, and she noticed that the Metro card was used 6 minutes after the ticket. She also noted that it was a valid unlimited Metro card, and she found me guilty and gave me a $100 fine.
Wow.
With the $100 fine, they say you can appeal it, so on and so forth. With the appeal, they say you have to pay the fine first. When you pay the fine during the appeal process, if you win the appeal, then they'll refund you the money. What I did was I ordered checks because I planned to pay the fine, but I planned to pay the fine on payday. I will write them a check for $1 plus the loose change that's left off my paycheck. $1 plus whatever it's 49 cents, 62 cents, 88 cents. They will receive a check for $1 plus change until that $100 fine is paid. I'm going to pay the fine, but I'm going to pay it on my pace. I also believe that when you have a gripe, when you have a problem, when you have an issue, then you should also at least have a solution. Mm-hmm. The solution that I would suggest would be, okay, if you're going to have a bus with 3 doors opening and you're allowing people to enter and exit through these 3 doors, at least have a place where you can pay or swipe to whatever on those entrances. I have no problem. Okay, I get on the bus, I got my unlimited Metro card, boop.
I think that's such an intense situation, especially because you were able to prove your innocence.
I won't go as far as say innocent.
Well, I'm saying, like, you've already paid for the monthly
For the month.
Metro card.
It doesn't say monthly, except when, no, I pay for the month. The
They
whole
have-
month
they
of
have
August
the money.
from that Metro card,
They
exactly.
have that money.
Yeah.
You know, I could see I really couldn't see, but like I understand if they tried to make a case with like a card that didn't even have the $275 on it, but you had a monthly.
And my hearing clearly states that although I did prove I had a monthly, I was cited because I entered the rear of the bus.
And I didn't know. I mean, I guess I need to check a bus next time because I didn't know that was a rule.
Because
I do get on the back of the bus and then I walk to the front.
if the
traffic
I
is
do that
too
often
long.
as well.
I mean, if it's a long
I don't do
line,
it anymore because I don't need the extra headache, especially with this one hanging over me.
And I think that MTA should. I pay $120. I pay what is it? $130, $120. I don't know what it is now.
$130.
But it's $130 plus a month that I'm paying up front. Not only am I paying this, I prove to you that I have this. You bring to me in your decision, you acknowledge that I have an unlimited Metro card. The key word is unlimited, unlimited usage. I should be able to use this Metro card as many times per month as I choose based on me paying for it. That's my gripe with the MTA.
And then the other thing that I would like to point out in this situation is that so often people will remedy a solution with a punitive measure opposed to like really getting to the source of the situation. And I'm not specifically talking about your situation. I'm talking about the people who they're targeting, right? They're targeting Black and brown people who are jumping on buses or hopping turnstiles or whatever you call it. But if we look at the situation a little bit deeper, we need to assess why people are unable to pay for this amount and implement more programs to make sure that they are able to pay. Like if you have a job or you're going on an interview or you're just trying to go to school, it should just be accessible to you. There are enough programs in New York, like non-for-profit programs in New York where they could have that. They could have a program that supports Black and brown youth or people in our communities who may need that money just to get to that job interview.
I have an issue with that as well because just thinking outside the box, thankfully I was able to pay for an unlimited Metro card for the month. But let's just say I didn't have the money to pay for an unlimited Metro card. Yeah. Let's just say I got on the bus and I didn't have the money. If the bus costs what, $2.75, $3, whatever it is, if I don't have the $3 or $2.75, you're gonna expect me to pay $100?
Right.
It just doesn't add up to me. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, the punitive measure is just, it's not optimal.
And
like
then,
why, not calling you poor, but why punish the poor for
being poor?
For being poor.
I take this a step further because I'm saying.
I would like to also add that I received a letter from them yesterday basically adding a $25 fine, a $25 extra for not paying this $100 so far. So now I'm paying $125.
Wow. That's all it is, $125?
So far, that's the first one.
That's another Metro
card.
Well,
exactly.
That's another Metro card.
Exactly, that's a monthly Metro card. And by the way, on the 19th of every month, that's when I generally buy my monthly. And this one is due as of the 19th of October.
Wow.
I'm supposed to pay this $125.
Wow.
What I do plan to do is before the 19th of October, they will receive their first check for $1 or whatever the case may be. So hopefully that'll stop.
It's still gonna go up.
That doesn't make sense to me, but I guess we'll fight that out and hammer it out when they're finished with their. It may take me 3 years to pay this because I'm going to give them the maximum of $2 per paycheck, and I get paid twice a month.
All right, I take this a little further because, especially with the bus thing, you didn't quite explain it to me, but I didn't get the whole thing right. What I'm saying is, especially like on a 60 bus. The 60 bus, when it goes into the hood, that's where the police be at.
That is where the police are. And Fordham Road.
Yeah.
And in my situation, this was in Hunts Point.
Areas. In all the black areas.
The 19 bus at Hunts Point.
Yeah.
Southern Boulevard.
That's a good point. That's where they police
the most. It only happens in the black and brown neighborhoods.
Even on 125th train station, you'll see like so many more like police officers just around that.
It's not on the 96th Street bus or the 86th Street bus.
Or the 72nd Street bus.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Or the 57th Street bus.
All the white areas.
Or the 14th Street bus.
Or the 42nd Street bus. You see? So I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
You just happened to talk about the MTA. Well, you psychic or something.
I interviewed the chief executive diversity officer of MTA this morning. So I guess, I was feeling these vibes. I knew that something happened, some wrongdoing happened with the MTA.
So did they say why they only police the black areas and why they
We
taking
didn't
all
get
the
that
money
far.
from the poor
That
people?
needs to be interview part 2. We were talking a lot about the initiatives and how because the MTA has this really big initiative on making sure that like minorities and women have a large piece of the pie when it comes to owning businesses in New York, so that it can strengthen the black dollar and get us to back to a place where we were.
Before they take it all from us with the fines and stuff.
That's what it seemed like they're trying to do.
They take the money.
They're trying to. They're going to take the money and then give it back, reinvest it.
You give you a couple pennies.
Can't be a part of it.
Because I remember my case. I went to, I went to the court and everything, and I told her, I said, look, I didn't have them. I'll never do it again. Just please let me go. The lady laughed, and I had her laughing and everything, but she still found me guilty. And
I'm so scared now. This is awful.
I said, how are you gonna? If I couldn't pay $275, how are you gonna give me a $100 fine? Which my fine is no longer $100. It's about $175 now. Because it keeps going up.
And,
I said, come and get me, coppers. They said they're going to send the marshals after me. I said, come and get me. I said, my show will grow. I'll let Bailey be my co-host, and she can interview me from prison.
Okay. That would make for a really good special. The ratings would go
when and if you interview them again, a question I think should be posed as well is, their practice of you have to pay the fine to start an appeal. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It really doesn't make sense.
I agree.
No, that's how they get the money.
Pay the fine
and
to
then
start
they don't even have any, they don't acknowledge the appeal anyway. You still would lose. They just want to make sure they get their money.
Johnetta, did something like this happen to you too?
Years ago when they first started, I think I was about 15, and my cousin went through the train station, through the turnstile, and I had something of hers, so I went under
to give it to
her, and then I came back out, and they was right there on me, and they was like, oh, you didn't pay it, and I'm like, no, because I didn't go in the train station. I gave my cousin something, telling them the story. And they was like, well, we have to give you a fine. So my cousin, she came out, and she's a minor. And they was like, well, we could put it in your name, in her name, but you can pay it.
Just give us your ID. It's fine.
And I didn't have any ID or anything at that time. I had like a school ID, and I wasn't even a resident of New York at that moment in time. And so that ticket did go up to about $125 or $150, and it went to my mother's house, a letter, because I ended up moving back to New York. My mother's like, why didn't you tell me you had a ticket? And I thought my cousin paid it, but she never paid it. And
so I'm sorry, what is the law or the rule for kids in the train? The kids have to pay?
I
think it's about
under
8.
12 or something.
Okay.
Around 8.
My 6-year-old, I'm not paying that.
No,
I'm going to get that same letter.
I end up paying the fine.
They put a ticket in a minor's name?
Yeah. And they didn't really know what they looked.
They don't care.
They didn't look like they knew what they were doing, because both of them was like discussing. I was like, I came back under the turnstile. Me and my cousin kept saying that, and they was like,
I think you could have fought that.
we had to, I could have if I would have told my mother.
Awful.
But yeah.
So always tell your mom when
always tell your mother and your parents what's going on.
All right. So hearing these situations here, 3 situations now, how does that apply with your living in a racist society? That podcast.
I think it's like how to manage living in a racist society or in a racist world. And I talk about things we can do to combat these type of things.
So what's our next step? What are we going to do?
Step?
Yeah.
This is my solution. The solution, or this is my methodology, I should say, is to identify all of the contributing factors of what the issue is, right? And then after you identify the various factors, you target the most, not the most difficult task, but the easiest task, and start executing the small tasks until you actually get change, right? Outside of that, though, like individually, and I think Johnetta could contribute to this, is like making sure that we are centered and we're balanced, especially as people of color. Like, just being in a racist society, it can always feel like you're on attack, or it's like something's working against you. Like, even on your best day, it's like something's a little off, you know?
Energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's especially like being in America as a minority, as a target, as a people who are weaponized and, you know, everything, and ridicule and all these things. It's, if you don't feel off balance, that's a little bit of a concern, because not saying you can't get back to being balanced, but if you're not aware of what's going on in our society, in this world, then that's more of a concern.
Everything's just fine.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You have to be aware. You have to be aware of yourself and what's going on. And how I look at racism as a distraction to get people from being centered, but also being aligned within their divinity. Because I have like more of a spiritual practice. And I feel like when we're out of balance, especially people of color, being energy and having that energy and learning how to master yourself in your energy and your emotions, I think that's really key. And you have to be aware of your thoughts and your emotions and your actions, because having that, you cannot retaliate hate with more hate, because you're not solving anything.
Exactly.
But
So you're saying they're doing it on purpose?
No,
As in?
she's saying as far as like a tool of response, it should never be like fighting fire with fire or hate with hate. You know, you can tackle it with love. You can tackle it with other things, and to dismantle.
and when we say,
I would like to chime in on that, because we've been attempting to address this with love for too long.
But
for too long.
I'll say this: when I speak about love, it's a very general term, because I'm more speaking about compassion to self.
yeah,
So operating in a place where I'm showing like love to myself first in order to navigate. Because if I love myself and I have compassion within, I'm not going to let you disrespect me. I'm not going to let you break me down. I'm not going to let you break down the people that I actually love in my life, you know? And so that's what I mean by
I can
love.
agree with that, but only in part. And I say
Okay.
only in part because I believe that the individual should always take control of the situation when possible. It's a little different when you are a male of color, a black male of color. The energy is different because, one, of your gender, two, because of your race, your skin color. Unfortunately, black men of color, it seems that their skin color is their weapon. And being that their skin color is their weapon, unfortunately it seems that the aggression that we face is out of our control sometimes. And as a black male, I find myself trying to stay balanced so I can combat whatever energy comes my way. But unfortunately, it also seems that the energy, more often than not, that comes my way, it's always in an aggressive manner, and
Over the top.
It's difficult to always be the subservient, to take the back seat. As a man, you're gonna stand, and that right there seems to be of resistance, which now you're gonna have the struggle between force. You have a struggle of force. And as a man, you wanna stand your ground. It's challenging.
It is.
It's really challenging.
But it doesn't, I don't think it takes away from like the importance of that self-compassion, because like even more to what you're speaking about, like you have to practice compassion,
Daily.
you know, more than a lot of people out here, you know, because it's like compassion also lends to awareness, like we talk about. So like if I know that people are going to be attacking me, then I have to like amp up my compassion for myself, because my compassionate self is not going to deck you in your eye. Like, my compassionate self is going to be like, okay, what are the bigger impacts and outcomes of this? Because that maintaining that compassion can make sure that you're not distracted by racism or by all of this aggression that's coming towards you, because we all serve bigger purposes, you know? I mean, you know that.
Yeah.
You know that.
That self-preservation part is hard to get around.
I hope we gave you methods, tools, and stuff to help you deal with this. What kind of society is this?
A racist society.
To help being a black person in a racist society. They don't really care about us. Have anything you want to say?
Yes, so you can check out my podcast, You Know What to Do, in a Piece with Netta, on Anchor FM and all major podcast platforms.
Peace.
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 Take a knee. Take back the rights we've all been taught to honor. Take a knee. Sometimes in this crazy world, you have to stoop to conquer. Take a knee for the First Amendment. Take a knee as a proud descendant. Take a knee for America